The big news around the NBA over the last 24 hours has been the firing of Wolves president and head coach Tom Thibodeau. The Wolves are under 500 and 2 games back of the 8th seed in the Western Conference. Interim head coach Ryan Saunders addressed the media earlier today.
Definitely didn't expect to be standing here. I'll first off say how much I respect Coach Tibbs and Coach Andy Greer as well. It's tough when you spend so much time with people, on the road or just in general, and then you see you're not going to see those people as much anymore. That's a tough thing. So I'm thankful for the opportunity, though, and moving forward, I'm looking forward to seeing progress on the court and helping grow this team.
Tuesday on NBA TV, it's players only, baby, as Dennis Scott would say. We've got a doubleheader starting with the Wolves and Thunder at 8 Eastern, followed by the Knicks and Warriors at 10:30. Your coverage starts right here at 7:30 with the Auto Trader pregame show. So to help me break down the first of that doubleheader, the czar, Mike Fratello, joins me to talk Timberwolves halfway through this adversity-laden season, we'll call it. What's a realistic expectation for this young team?
This was a team who was just starting to find its way, 5-3 in their last 8 games. One of their 2 young stars has been playing out of his mind lately, and that's Karl Anthony Towns. The last game, both young guys, Wiggins and Towns, go for 28 points apiece. When you look at their roster, it's kind of an interesting blend. You have 7 players with 5 years or less experience. Then at the other end of the spectrum, you have 4 players with 9 and 10 years of experience. But let's face it, obviously their future is Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins. They've played exactly the same number of home and away games. They have 21 home left, 21 away left, as they take this 19-21 record. And yeah, they're not in the playoffs as it was tonight, but they're only 2 games out of the 8th spot. So Ryan coming in, taking over for Tibbs, he's got a tough assignment here, because now you've got to get these guys to buy in. And without knowing how much involvement he's had with these young guys, I would think he's had a lot of time with them in development, that type of thing. They know he's a basketball guy. He's done their scouting reports and preparation for them for a couple of years now. I would think that they would give him a lot of respect. He's got Ed Pinckney, Malik Allen alongside of him to help him out, and that's their job, to help this young man out. He's got an interesting challenge in front of him.
Well, you mentioned if the playoffs were to start today, they would be on the outside looking in. But because of the parity in the Western Conference through the first 40 games this season, is a playoff push realistic?
I think it's realistic, but obviously the key is health, injuries. Can they go through the second part of the season without any seriously long stretches of key guys being out? Get Covington involved, get Saric involved with this team since the trade took place. If Towns keeps playing like he's playing, that's a huge plus for a young guy coming in when you got a guy who's averaging over 28 points a game for the last 8 games.
Well, you mentioned the split right down the middle with home games and away games, and the next 8 games actually look exactly like that as well. They're split at home and on the road, starting with tomorrow night's matchup at OKC, before they then return to Minnesota to host the Mavericks and the Pelicans this weekend, a couple of teams that are also vying for playoff position.
If I was a head coach stepping in, an interim coach, I would have picked a little bit different opponent than Oklahoma City for my first game to break in.
Yeah.
But welcome to the NBA.
Yeah, surprise. Yeah. Welcome. All right, well, I'm going to head over to the other side of the court, and we're going to talk a little bit about, the flip side of this matchup, the Oklahoma City Thunder, with our Hall of Fame head coach, Kevin McHale. Coach, when you look at what's made the Thunder successful thus far this season, we talk, of course, a lot about the statistical performances that Russell Westbrook has put up in an MVP caliber season, but let's talk about Paul George and their defensive prowess.
Yeah, I like Paul George. Paul George is really playing well right now. He's at the level where everybody even defers to him. Even Russell Westbrook, when Paul gets going, they give him the ball and let him create shots for himself. And at late in games, they're giving the ball to Paul to finish out games for him. So I like him. But what I really like about OKC is their defense. There's a couple things that they do. They lead the league in deflections, so they're long and they get out in the passing lanes, and you're seeing right now Paul George knock down shots. And their ability to defend, though, is what got me excited. They get their hands on lots of balls, whether it be deflections, block shots, and it turns the points really quickly. They have Steven Adams in the middle that can really control the paint, and he's going to bump and bruise you as you see these guys get steals galore. And big Steven Adams holds down the paint. And then they can switch a lot of stuff. I like the teams that can switch. They not only switch, they switch to deny. So as picks come down, they get up and they deny the passes. That's why they have so many deflections. So I'm more excited about their defense this year than of anything else. I haven't really bought into OKC the last couple of years. They're just impossible for me to like. They play so well, then they play so bad at times. They're just up and down. But their defense right now has got me believing that they could really make a playoff run. You can beat people in this league with defense if you're dedicated and doing it. Now, I know it's an offensive league, but you can go out there, and they have the type of athletes that can get out, deny, and play really good defense on the perimeter.
Well, you're exactly right. We've spent the last couple of seasons, and especially last season, talking about when the Thunder were going to find their way. It was a team that was inconsistent to have so much talent on its roster. Do you see anything apart from its defensive consistency as the reason why they could be contenders this season in the West?
Yeah, I think that they can bring in and play Schroeder alongside of Westbrook, and I think that just gives them a unique ability. Westbrook can come off picks, get off the ball. Schroeder can handle the ball. He can get his own offense, but he can also distribute. And I just think less is more. I think, Carmelo there, everybody was trying to figure out how to play with each other. Carmelo leaves that, opens up more opportunity for Paul George. And as I said when we started the segment, they believe in Paul George. They give him the ball late. They let him close games. Westbrook is deferring to him. And Russell Westbrook doesn't defer to many people, and he's deferring to him. And again, I just think that less is more for this team. But I believe in them, as I said earlier. I believe in them because of their defense. I like the way they D up.
Well, you just said it. Russ may not defer to many people, but he has become more of an offensive facilitator when you look at his numbers this season as opposed to the last couple. What has impressed you most about his play?
Well, he hasn't been shooting the ball well this year. But that's the thing I like is you can control the game. I always said you're really not a basketball player if the only way you can control the game is by scoring. Then you know what you are? You're a scorer.
Right.
If you're a basketball player, you can control the game and score 10, 12 points. I mean, assist, rebound, defend, do all of these things. And, Westbrook's a basketball player. And that's why I really like the guy. So he's not shooting the ball well. He hasn't been in a great rhythm. He started off with knee surgery, missing training camp and all that stuff. But I like the fact that he's kind of coming out, testing the water a little bit on some shots. And if he's not hitting it, he's just playing the game. There's many, many ways to win a basketball game. It's not all about, can I get 35 points? And Westbrook can affect the game defensively, offensively, rebounding, a lot of different ways. He's such a unique, powerful guard in this league, like the likes we haven't seen. He's unique, and I like the way he's playing on the defensive end particularly.
Well, come with me to center court as I have both coaches join me now to talk about the team that typically sits atop the league, the defending champion Golden State Warriors. Now, the second half of our players-only doubleheader Tuesday night features those Warriors hosting the New York Knicks. The Warriors sit in second, currently in the Western Conference, but they've posted their worst mark in the Steve Kerr era through these first 40 games. What do you attribute that to? Are you concerned at this point?
I'm not really concerned. Obviously, people aren't used to seeing 6 home losses for Golden State already, not used to seeing them in the third position in the Western Conference. But it is a grinding thing to go through, and Kevin can attest to this. When you're a championship caliber team, and every year, every team is hunting for you, you're the biggest game on certain teams' schedule every night out. It eventually gets to you because you have to perform at a championship level. And you slip up just a little bit, that opponent is playing at the top level against you that particular night. They've had some injuries. They have some guys going through some tough stretches. They'll bring it back together. But right now, it's going to take a little time, and they may have help coming on the way.
Yes, that they do. And DeMarcus Cousins, that was the perfect segue, by the way. There's still no timetable set for his return, but he was a full participant in Warriors practice again on Monday. I got to stop calling you guys coach because coach and coach. Okay, Coach McHale, what do you think that Boogie's going to bring to this team?
They'll be better offensively with Boogie on the floor because he's a great passer. He can play out on top of the key. He can make passes. He's a big body. He sets screens. He can get guys open. I think he also understands ball and body movement. I think he's got a good basketball IQ on the offensive end. Defensively wise is where I get concerned with him on the floor. They switch a lot of stuff. And, man, you're going to have a hard time switching a lot of these pick and rolls with DeMarcus Cousins. So with Boogie, you're going to have to figure out what kind of scheme do you want. Are you going to push it, ice it down the baseline? He's going to have to get in that position, guard 2 for a while.
Fast.
Is he going to show and recover? And so there's a lot of things that they got to do with him defensively that will be different. My concern with Golden State, though, overall, isn't, you can say they're not playing well. Green hasn't really hit stride. I watch them play, and there's some funkiness out there. There's some sideways glances of things going on, and there's just like they had a little bit of that scrum in the huddle between Green and KD. That usually either brings the team together, and everybody goes like, hey, you're right, we got to play better. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard them say, no, we've made amends, we've done this. And a couple things hurt teams on a playoff run. Usually it's injuries and age. You get older, you have your run, it's over. In today's game, it's free agency. And then, man, it's internal bickering. That's the one that I'm always worried about, because everybody starts looking around thinking, man, who's going to be here next year? What's going on next year? Is KD going to, all this stuff. And that hurts a team. You got to be singly focused to win a championship, and that's win every single game you play in and compete at a high level every night.
Well, we're going to be back with a whole lot more from our NBA TV studios next, including live looks from around the league. Elsewhere on this 8-game Monday night, the Spurs are looking to extend a 4-game winning streak as they head to Detroit to take on the Pistons. The Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Utah Jazz. That game's going to be on NBA League Pass just minutes from now. The Jazz have won 2 in a row, both on the road, 3 of their last 4 overall. Meanwhile, the Bucks are coming off a loss. They haven't lost consecutive games this season, a perfect 10-0 following a loss. Let's hear Coach Quinn Snyder with Craig Bolerjack prior to the game.
This is game number 41 tonight. What's your thought?
Well, it's hard to believe. We were walking on the just coming to practice and walking on the street today, and you still see some Christmas decorations, and Christmas seems like it was 2 months ago. So it's happened fast, and we're growing. I think we're a better team now than when we started the year, and that's, to me, I know. You'd love for the record to. I think you always want the record to be better, right. But I think as we continue to play, and tonight and the next game and beyond, if we can continue to improve, that'll serve us well.
Speaking of getting better, listen. Let me take you back to Detroit, because you were down 18, but a dynamic second half, offensively and defensively. You guys are very active, and Donovan seemed to be the guy that led the charge.
Yeah, really, and you mentioned Donovan in the second half, and he certainly did. I think in the second quarter, really, when Dante and Thabo were in the game, the way those two guys played, and it was tough to see both of them, take an injury, because those two guys, you could really feel. Thabo played the rest of the second quarter. Dante had like 5 assists in 6 minutes. And hard to lose them in that game, and would have also been really easy with those two guys playing well for the rest of the team to kind of let up, and that didn't happen. And Donovan, as much or more than anyone, really midway through the third quarter, he came back in and he really dug in defensively, and I think the game just started kind of unfolding for him, and he was instinctive, and he was really good.
Yeah, he really was. Coach, finally, we're in Milwaukee, which is the home of Giannis Antetokounmpo. And when you speak of him, I mean, just one word pops up. It's just unique.
Yeah.
Maybe you have more.
Terrific, yeah. There's a lot of superlatives that you can use to describe him. And Bud's done an unbelievable job, helping him bring all those talents out kind of exponentially. But some of the statistics that you see that are unique, nobody scored more in the paint since Shaq. So you look at a guy, and he's basically a modern-day Shaq. He's not doing it with post-ups all the time. He's doing it more off, dribble penetration and transition. But he's a really unique player, and that makes it's hard because he's so good, but it's also hard because he's so different.
Coach Snyder also mentioned Dante Exum's ankle injury. He's reportedly going to be out for the next 2 weeks. So before I ask you about their matchup with the Milwaukee Bucks, I want to ask why the slow start for the Utah Jazz, a young team that we were expecting to see take a big jump at the start of the season.
I think a couple of things that jump out at me. When you look at their record right now, they've played 16 home games. They've played 24 away games, and here they are in Milwaukee again tonight. And the fact that they have a 20-20 record, just a game and a half out of the playoffs in the Western Conference, I think says a whole lot. The same thing is Donovan Mitchell didn't start out the season the same way that he finished up last season. But so did a couple other guys in the league that we've talked about tonight. Didn't start out great, like James Harden, but he's on fire right now. So if Donovan Mitchell gets back to the form that we saw last year, where he was just simply sensational, And then a couple of these nagging little injuries where guys miss 3, 4, 5 games, you couple that with a brutal schedule, this team's in a great spot to make a run in the second half of the season.
Let me ask you, Kevin, because you and I talk a lot about these young players who the team tends to, well, the league tends to figure out in their sophomore season. Do you think that that's the case here with Donovan?
No question. When you take the league by storm like Mitchell did, especially the second half of last year, everybody now, you're the number one guy in the scouting report. So the coach stands in front of the group in the morning before the game and says, this is how we're stopping Donovan Mitchell. I'm putting my best defenders on him. I'm forcing him left. He likes to pull up. Whatever your tendencies are, they say we're taking your favorite tendency away, making you play your weaknesses, not your strength. And as a young player in this league, it's like a chess match. You start off with the same opening in your chess match 5, 6 times in a row. Finally, the guy says, you're not doing that. You're not beating me with that. You have to change up. I've told this story before. I remember the first time I played in a playoff series against really talented players that were really smart, were Kyle Jones and Bobby Jones, and they played for Philadelphia 76ers. So I had the move where I'd fake left, turn around, fade away, jump shot. Hell, Bobby Jones jumped before I did. He blocked it. I mean, I hadn't had anybody block that shot, so I don't know when. And I was like, dang, like I got to come up with plan B here. They made you play to plan B. They took away your favorite move, and that made me a better player. And I said that Donovan Mitchell earlier this year was going to look at film. Quinn's a really good coach, Snyder. He's going to figure out what the defenders are doing to him, and he's good enough that he'll go to plan B and C and get counters. So I think it's a tough schedule, like Mike said. And then I think it's just, Donovan, the league caught up to him. Now he's figuring out what they're doing, and he's making the next jump. So it's just, you're always doing this. As a young player and you're trying to get here, you do this all the way up. And he's just on his just stages of growing up that ladder.
And they're taking on a Milwaukee Bucks team that's sitting